Hello and welcome to the show. It is time for a new rally car build series here at Blizzard Mountain, and we have got our new benchmark car. The Ford Focus Gymkhana / Rallycross vehicle is going to set the target time around Blizzard Mountain. This series is going to work a little bit differently. We're going to have a mixture of all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive cars. Maybe we'll see a surprise. Some rear-wheel drive car might be amazing and cause an upset on the table. Of course, the all-wheel drive cars are naturally going to be the faster vehicles. However, yeah, people wanted to see a mixture of vehicles going on, so that is what we are going to do. However, the target, though, is going to be from an all-wheel drive car. We are going to the Mountain Peak Scramble. This is quite a vicious circuit. It's quite a departure from my previous rally builds, if you like, that was on a very, very fast stage. This one still got, a relatively long front straightaway. However, there are some twisty, some tight sections around this course. There's even a little bit that's technically not on a road. There's a slightly slightly sort of cross-country corner, that's the right word for it, for the cars to deal with. We don't have any big airtime around here. However, we do have ice, and yeah, it's just something rather different from the previous series that I've done, and I am quite happy with that. Not quite sure where we break into turn one with this car. I've done a little bit of practice around this circuit with some other vehicles just to kind of give me an idea of, or just to learn the track, familiarise myself with the track so the Focus doesn't have such a horrendous disadvantage. So yeah, hopefully we can set a pretty decent benchmark time. How much grip do we have in the car? What I was driving previously was flat out through here. Not sure. Maybe if I get the line right, the Focus can be pretty quick at least, if not flat out. This is the section that I was talking about that's slightly cross-country, and it is a little bit vicious. Got to be really careful through that section. He's going to really test some, I think maybe the low-slung sports cars and supercars and so on might have issues getting around that part because it is a very mean section, but it's just a different challenge for these vehicles. Then we've got quite a lot of these sort of slowish 90-degree corners for the cars to slide their way through. Avoid the ice I've turned in. Oh, but I've got a bit more grip than I was expecting. Yeah, avoid the ice down there. That will cause all sorts of trouble for your vehicle. We slow it up around the barriers. Don't really want to be hitting any of the track scenery. It is liable to slow you down quite a lot, especially at this final corner. If you hit the inside the fence with a car, you can almost come to a stop. I think I raced this track with the Morgan at one point and it hit that inside fence and it stopped completely dead. So yeah, this has got a lot more speed, a lot more power behind it. However, it's not a good idea. Wow, we can really get late on the brakes. So turn one here, I've done a normal racing line, but it's not good because there's ice on the outside. Turn one, the trick, you've really got to hug the inside of the course, because on the exit you don't want to drift out wide like I did, otherwise you just end up sliding across the ice and there's no grip out there and you'll get into trouble. So we've got to take a slightly funky line through the first corner, but I think we can make something work out with a lot more speed around there. And I love that that's one of the fastest corners on the track here, and we're doing just over 90 miles an hour at the apex of it compared to, what was it, 120, 130 through a lot of the corners that were on the previous build series. This is a lot more technical. This is a lot more technical, and while I still think the likes of the SUVs that can get crazy levels of power are going to be fast, perhaps faster than you would expect an SUV, I'm not sure they're quite going to have the same advantages because there's a lot of more technical sections. I'm still turning in too soon down there. A lot more technical sections where they're going to come undone and be difficult to handle. Although, potentially, I'm not quite sure how it's going to work on this game. Again, it's something that we're going to find out. The heavier cars, more weight, might actually be a bit useful in kind of finding traction, pushing the car down to the ground. It might help it in the snow. We will have to see. A 26.6 for my first flying lap in this car. How late dare we go? And I feel like I can get away with even later than that. Now, one of the tricks with this first corner, go for a really late apex, and that way you can straighten it up. That is kind of what you want to be doing, although there's apparently a jump over there. I've not found that before. Okay. Yeah, you go for a really super late apex on that corner. It means you can accelerate straight off the corner and you won't hit the ice. It's technically not the best racing line through there, but you've got to avoid the ice. So I'm thinking that might be a good way to be going. Oh, we got cracked 100 miles an hour before diving on the brakes. Yeah, we're not going to see the crazy speeds from vehicles. We might see a little bit of speed down the front straight. Ooh, carefully does it. But I doubt we're going to see much. Oh, we were seeing cars in 160 miles an hour at the previous rally stage. I doubt we're going to be seeing that again here. Maybe a very quick car by turn 1 might be able to get vaguely close to that. I'm not sure, especially with the way this series is going to work with cars having to keep their standard drive lines. Crazy rear-wheel drive stuff is going to struggle for traction around here. Yeah, by giving the cars, you guys wanted to see me keep the cars with their standard drive lines, mix things up a little bit more. It will be noted in the tables. There will be a separate thing to just say, rear-wheel drive cars are unlikely to challenge a beast such as the Focus, but you never know. You never know what might throw up a surprise, be amazingly good. Now, let's focus on getting a quick lap here, so we can kind of leave it right until we are on I think it's the rock around there for the brakes. Then we can get it turned around there neatly. Although if we take that line, we actually get a small jump. Wasn't expecting that one. There's less airtime in this course, certainly. Although both my previous rally builds have had very big jumps in, so it's kind of a nice change for me. So we can carry mega speed around there. Now we stick wide for the first part. Oh, I've not a little too long to turn in. Although we are going to be quick on the exit once more. Slow the car down. It gets very bumpy here. There's all sorts of different lines you can try and take to make speed. I'm going for being smooth through the first part, clonky through the second part, almost hitting the rock. Didn't quite mean to dive down, hit the hill so fast, but we are through. It's that corner there actually is deceptively open. I can carry a lot more speed. It's so wide as well. In places this course is very wide, and in other places it's very narrow, and you've got to be careful. There's quite a few 90-degree corners. Some are a lot worse than others, because some you've got a lot more leeway on the exits to run wide, others not so much. I'm still managing to bump into the ice. We are going to have, well, one more lap after this. It's going to be 5 laps. This is a bit of a longer circuit, so 5 laps for the cars to set their times. Hopefully we can get, I think this is a pretty decent lap actually from the Focus as we round that final corner. Got to be careful on the exit of that final corner. One more lap to go after this to go faster in the Focus. Jump on the brakes again into this first corner. Not quite run as wide under braking. We've still got that tighter line though through there. We're not bouncing up into the air. It's a slightly different line. Oh, we're struggling to get that front end turned. I don't quite know why we suddenly had a lot of understeer through that corner, but there we go. Now we can just get away with a little lift actually at the top of the course, and again it's a lift. Haven't had to go on the brakes all the way down that section. Now we will have to go on the brakes for here, because this is a horrible part of the course. Difficult for a car like this to deal with, and this is a proper rallycross car, and even this does not feel very comfortable heading down that section, so God knows what the sports cars are going to think. It's much better around there. We were much braver on the way in. Now let's not overshoot this corner here like I have been doing. Clip the checkpoint, but we have made it. Now leave it, left it later to turn in. We still brushed the ice, but it didn't affect us too much down there. It's up to 100 miles an hour once more as we jump on the brakes, get the car turned through what is again a very deceptively tight corner. You've got to watch for the barrier on the outside. Up towards the final turn we go and floor it towards the line. This is going to be it. I think it's going to be a faster lap from the Focus. It's a 25-2 from the Ford. Whew. It's certainly an intense circuit, this one. There is very little in the way of arrest around it. There is practically nothing in the way of a arrest, and we shall have some celebratory donuts from the car and back it into the wall. So slightly. Nobody saw that one. It was only a slight bump. Yeah, really intense circuit. I think that's a good time, a good target time for the Focus. We shall now go and see what my builds will be capable of. So the first vehicle to tackle this new course is the Mark III Toyota Supra. And I have to say, of all of the various Supras, the Mark III is my favourite. I don't know how many people are going to agree with me on that one, but I do much prefer the Mark III over the Mark IV. I would absolutely love to own one of these. They aren't too expensive in England, surprisingly. Yeah, I really quite like the Mark III Supra, so I am very curious to see how this will manage at the rally stage, because this is going to be our first rear-wheel drive car. The way that this series is going to work, a little bit different to my previous ones. As I said, cars are going to keep their standard drive lines. So rear-wheel drive cars will be competing with the all-wheel drive cars. We're not expecting the rear-wheel drive cars necessarily to always be challenging at the top, but as I said, you never really know with these sorts of builds. We're also going to be aiming for a different PI. Now, the previous series, we've always been to the max of a class. It was S1 class last time on Horizon 3. The problem is Horizon 3's PI is a little bit, I say a little bit wonky. At the top of A class, when we put on the mandatory parts for this series, so we're going to do that with this car, everything is going to have to run on snow tyres. There is no question about that. We're going to run the cars all on snow tyres. As you can see, that already jumps me up into A class. Just tyres alone is putting me up into a low A class, and you just are not going to get very much power in these cars, and I want them to be a little bit faster. I did do a very quick test build on this Supra as an example, and it was getting about 300 horsepower with no weight reduction, and it's just not enough. So what we're going to be doing is going for halfway through S1 class, 850 PI. Because if you go to the top of S1 class and the cars go mental, the gap between the top of A and the top of S1 is ridiculous, and loads of cars get horrendous levels of power. So we're going for the middle ground. It's going to be a little bit more powerful, but not quite utterly balmy. Not that I have anything against utterly balmy cars, and we are still going to see plenty of balmy cars with halfway through S1 class, because there's still a lot of power available in some of the vehicles. But yeah, it's going to be, I think it's a good compromise, and it should give it the cars, you know, exciting enough, but should also allow more cars to stay with, you know, their standard engine, and perhaps more cars to be competitive, and so on. We are going to go, well, I'm not a massive fan of, I think I prefer the standard front bumper, not a massive fan of that one. We are going for the wide body kit, simple reason of bigger tyres. And that's what we are going to be going for. I don't know what we need to do with the engine yet. We will come back to all of that later. We are going to have the Forza rear wing. We're going to be putting aero on all of the cars because I want the downforce. While it's not quite going to be as important here as it has been on the previous course, the Reservoir Trail, because we're not quite going as fast. We're still going quite fast, and yeah, I want grip. I want stability in my vehicles. 275s on the front, and we're going to have 315s on the rear. Well, I'm hoping that they will do a good enough job of putting power down onto the road. The other compulsory parts that these cars must have, even if they weren't compulsory, I'll be putting them on them anyway, is the off-road suspension. They're all going to run on these parts because of the surface that we're tackling here. I'm also likely to put on all of these bits and pieces, and likewise with the roll cage as well. Adds a bit of weight but stiffens up the chassis, and that is going to be helpful. Now we are almost at midway through A class. What do we do with the Supra in terms of weight? I don't know if we want to go full weight reduction. Again, while we have a bit of PI to play with at the moment, we don't have unlimited amounts. So I'm thinking kind of mid-stage on weight reduction, £3,100. It's not going to be crazy like this car. However, I don't kind of want to go too much on the lightness and then struggle with sort of traction and waste a bunch of PI on that. So then we're going to sit in the middle. Shall we go work on the engine then? I think that's not the engine at all. That's the engine that we want to go and do. We'll see what sort of power we can get. I'm hoping the standard engine will be enough. Looks like it probably will be, with some turbos to whack it up towards 850 PI. Yeah, okay, so we're going to be looking at, you know, a good 400, maybe about 450 horsepower in this car. Which is, yeah, it should be enough to make things exciting. Should be enough to make it exciting for me to drive, and yeah, hopefully not too utterly terrifying. I'm going to want a differential on there. I do feel like that this would perhaps be a better cut-off point for the cars, for like S1 class, to make it a little bit less of a horrendous step between S1 and or A and S1. Sorry. I'm thinking I might go for the sport transmission. It's actually dropping me a PI despite making things better. So yeah, sure, we'll go with that if I can save a PI. I don't know why on earth I wouldn't. And then we'll finish it off with some more power parts. I think we can get a little bit more. I'm actually getting near 500 horsepower. So this is, remember, halfway through S1 class. We're getting almost 500 horsepower out of this. Have I put almost everything? There's something we can do. Yeah, so we're almost, okay, we're not quite almost at 500. We're at 456 horsepower and we're halfway through S1. You kind of get the idea as to why it would be a bit ridiculous running everything at the top. Especially when we've got rear-wheel drive cars on snow. I'm kind of happier with this. We can get a flywheel on, not adding any PI to the vehicle, and maybe we're going to drive line. Yes, we can. Now you might be sitting there and wondering, isn't this a little bit unfair to the cars that I'm building, considering the Rallycross car is at the top of S1 class? That is very true. However, the pre-built cars have struggled. Again, last series, the Audi Quattro was at the top of S1, and that got absolutely murdered. Like, absolutely murdered by everything. So I'm wondering if this might actually balance it out a little bit more. Again, rear-wheel drive cars are going to have fun times on the snow, but with the all-wheel drive things, or again, maybe some good rear-wheel drive cars, I think this will be a bit of an evener system as I'm building these cars how I want them to, rather than the pre-built specs, if you like. That is going to do for our first vehicle. The Supra will be ready to go, and I am expecting it to be very sideways for much of the time. Well, the Supra is ready to get very cold, and I suspect very sideways as we set off. Struggle a little bit with the launch. Hopefully once we're up to speed, it won't be too bad. How are the brakes? Could be worse. Could be worse indeed. Oh, easy does it to avoid that. I think with these giant tyres, our traction is actually not doing... it's not doing too badly. It feels like it's struggling, but I'm looking at the speedo and we're not doing too bad our speed. So, you know, that's always something. Try and get the car turned here. Now, we were doing about 90 miles an hour through this corner with the Focus. With a much better line, I'm thinking we can perhaps not be too far off. How are we going to manage up this hill? Now, this climb will probably cause issues for the rear-wheel drive cars. You just can't scramble up there as well when you've just got the rear wheel spinning. But everywhere else on the course, we're not quite having to go from a complete standstill, which is nice and makes it a bit easier on the old traction front. This is not quite as leery as I was expecting it to be. I guess it could be if I really wanted it to be, and we might not be so friendly if we manage to hit the ice. Again, turn-in is pretty good down there. Carry speed, don't clock the wall. There we go, we're fine. Although we're not going to stop there. They're never stopping for that corner. We've made it just, though. I really thought I was going to smack my face into the wall there. We did run wide, and it was horrendously slow. However... yeah, that's fun times. Bye-bye to all off the fence. Yeah, not something that we want to be really going to hit into. It's not been a particularly great first lap, and yeah, we are away off of the Focus's time. Oh, I've completely butchered that. We've got a lot better braking performance from the Supra than I was slightly expecting down there. This has got considerably more weight going on than the Rallycross Focus, but it can still get slowed down, or can get on the brakes very late into that opening corner. Now, can we be brave down here? Try and throw... oh, I might have cut that corner a bit too fine. Yes, indeed we have. Okay, I had to give it a try. I guess I'd rather it happen on this lap than on the final lap, the do-or-die lap. Yeah, we were too greedy. I thought I might be able to nick it with the back of my car, but didn't really get it across enough. And we bounce it up around here. Yeah, I think this is where we're going to struggle with the rear drive cars, although which one of them can do the best will be an interesting one to see as the series progresses. We are again going to be very sideways out of that, or it could be very sideways, certainly if I let it. It's a really interesting corner, that one. It is fairly, on the map, it's a fairly simple looking, almost 90 degree, but the way that the previous corner folds into it, it's kind of an all-in-one. It's very odd. It's very odd indeed, and I'm taking all manner of wonky lines, although we have actually just about got away with that okay. Surprisingly, we have made it through that section without too much, well, I say without too much trouble. Oh, and then to the final corner we go. I'm managing to hit the fence very nicely with the Toyota. We can definitely do better than that. Right, Awful, awful, awful so far on these first 2 runs. We can be very brave. I wonder if we can go... Oh, okay. We can actually, surprisingly, get stopped doing that. Right, go for that. There we go. Super late apex. Now you can get it nice and straight for this next part. Now, we're not quite accelerating as quick as the Focus. We didn't get quite as big a jump. That is to be expected with this car. I mean, let's face it, it is heavier and less power than the Focus has and is only rear-wheel drive. But the turning is actually really good. I mean, that is carrying almost as much speed through that section as the Ford was. And this is not a rallycross car, so that's something I think to be quite impressed with about the Toyota. Through the thick snow we go, with again most of it sideways and most of it out of control. I'm kind of just leaving it in third at the moment and hoping for the best. Oh, I think I might have missed that one as well. I'm trying... I got that one. Got to be really careful here when you're trying to push your luck through some of these checkpoints. When you're trying to go... I definitely missed that one. Yeah. When you're trying to push your luck and make the corners flow nicely, it's quite easy, especially when, you know, there's no real roads to aim for there. It's just aim for the flags, and I get a bit greedy. Greedy twice. We've got to, yeah, do better than that with these cars. I've still got a couple of laps to go, okay? This is just finding what the Supra is capable of, and hopefully now we can act upon it. We're not going to take out the bloody fence as we come around the final corner. We're definitely not taking out the fence, okay? I'm going to stay well clear of the fence. I wonder if it's because I'm now driving a right-hand drive car and the fence is kind of hidden behind the pillar. I wonder if that's what I'm... part of the reason why I'm being stupid and taking stuff out there. Anywho, let's get on to this, hopefully, quicker lap. There we go. Get that nice tight line through the corner. We have got all sorts of wonky, though, through the next turn, which is not really ideal. It's actually kind of an awkward section. If you take the late apex, go for avoiding the ice, you end up across the jump for the next corner, which is also less than ideal. So there's kind of no real good way of doing things around there with a little bit more sideways. In the Supra we go, bounce our way up the hill. Now, just try and keep momentum through here without spinning the wheels, without getting stuck, and don't get caught on the rocks. Lots of things to think about through that little slow section, and we are through all of it, and we've found the next checkpoint. Now, blend these corners into one, especially if we're going to be doing a little bit too much of the sideways for my liking, but it's all good around there. This is a lot more like it. We're again going to hit that ice on the inside. Can't do much to avoid it. Well, I turned in too soon, and I realised I had, and there's nothing you can do when you've turned in too soon. You're kind of committed. You can try and turn out of it, but that's not really going to help matters any. One more turn to go. Avoid the horrible, horrible bloody fence. We can actually leave it a little bit later to turn in with the car, and in fact that time we slightly missed the apex trying to avoid the fence, but never mind. We are safely through all of that. 32.6 that time around from the Supra. Yeah, we're not going to be beating the Focus that much unless some miracle happens. On this final lap. Wiggle it through the next corner we go. But I was kind of expecting that for this as an opening one. I am really enjoying this Supra though. It's actually got so much more turning than I was expecting it to have on the snow. It's doing really well around this course. I was a little bit slower through the apex of that corner, but I think I got a much better exit, so we will see. Third gear is also being really nice around here. Kind of just leave it in third, and things are going relatively well. I say relatively well. Oh, that could have done with being in a second gear through that part. Oh, come on, find some grip. Find some grip from those giant rear tyres here. We're now going to slide our way. That's a really awkward corner. The more I drive that, the more awkward that corner gets, trying to take it as fast as you possibly can. Oh, that ice. If it was just, 60, 80 centimetres less of ice, that'd be fine, but it's not. It's just that arsey amount right where I want to be hitting it to get ready for the next corner. One last turn to go. Can we get it under the 1:30 30s around here? I'd be relatively pleased if we could. As we slide it out of that final corner, we're not going to. It's going to be a fraction quicker. 32.5 for the Supra. I don't think too bad are a showing for a rear-wheel drive car in the snow, in the ice. It is actually pretty good to drive. Yeah, this patch here is... In fact, this patch of ice isn't as bad because I'm finding ways to avoid it. There's one further around that's a real arsehole. Yeah, I like the Supra, actually. I do quite like this car for rallying. It had a lot more traction than I was expecting it to. Of course, you still got to be very careful indeed. We're going to have some more celebratory donuts from the car. Yes, on the leaderboard, of course, it is the Focus that still leads the way, and it probably will be up until we get to some all-wheel drive challenges on here. The Supra was pretty good for a rear-wheel drive car, but it's always going to struggle in a scenario such as this one. It can carry decent enough quarter speed, like actual apex speed it's doing okay with, but it's just putting the power down after the corner is, certainly with some of the slower corners as well, is where it's always going to be losing out. Could have been a lot further down though on the Focus, that much is for sure. However, that is going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.